emotion outpulls and outpersuades logic. And if you've been to my Selling Online event, this is one of the first things we talk about. I talk about how like most of us think we're having a conscious conversation with our audience, right? Like I'm speaking to you right now, and right now we're having a conscious conversation. My conscious mind, your conscious mind, right? And you're paying attention. But what we don't understand is that I may be able to consciously convince you of something for a moment. But if I want you to actually change, it's not logic that gets you to change, it's the emotion, right? I have to get you to feel something. And the reason why is because while logic is what we're having this conversation with, like emotion and story is our subconscious. And that's the thing that actually decides if we're gonna move somewhere or we're not. What's up, this is Russell. Welcome back to my vault. Today I wanted to pull out a really cool advertising book because a lot of you guys are buying ads on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, and you don't understand the psychology of advertising. You probably watch a TikTok or YouTube course, now you're dancing and hopefully make money, but the people who have the most success, who make the most amount of money, are people who understand the psychology of advertising. So I wanted to bring a book. This book was published in the early 1900s, actually 1913. I spent $137.88 to get this copy because the people who were mastering advertising, the ones who were the best, are the ones who had to do it back in the day when they didn't have the internet to split test a million things. They had to think about it because every single ad that was going out, every single letter they sent, every single everything, they had to pay money to have it actually be successful, to get it out there. They weren't able to just do some cool social things and hopefully get people to follow them. And so these people have spent the most amount of energy and effort and thought power to understand the psychology of how things are working. And so this book, The Psychology of Advertising, is one of my favorites. And it's interesting because I was reading through this. It syncs with a lot of things that I have been doing and teaching, especially in my Selling Online event. We talk a lot about understanding the subconscious mind and how to use it to persuade people and get people to move. It's the same type of things that our friend Walter Dill Scott is talking about here inside of The Psychology of Advertising. Now, one of the things that I struggle, especially with the young up-and-coming entrepreneurs who are having some success, like 9 times out of 10, they don't actually understand why it's working, right? They see other people doing something and they're modeling, and some things they do hit, some things they don't hit. And the reason why a lot of them struggle is because they just don't understand the underlying psychology. Like if you look at what advertising actually is, it's 100% understanding the psyche and psychology of human beings and how they work. And if you can understand that at a deep level, like I always think like the greatest marketers and business people are the people that understand human psychology, because that's all the business is, right? How do we create an offer? How do we create a product that's going to speak to somebody in a way that gets them to move, that gets them to run around and figure out how to find their wallet? How do you speak to somebody in a way that persuades them and influences them to want to take action, to actually use the product they're buying from you to be successful, right? Those are the parts that most people miss, right? There's the tip of the iceberg that people are copying and then they're modeling, but there's the rest of the iceberg that most people don't understand. It's tough because sometimes people have a successful hit where they get something that works, they make a bunch of money real quick and and they start thinking that that's the reason. But I watch people all the time. Like I've been doing this now for 25 years. And I see people like when the market shift, when the platforms change, everything falls apart because they focused on a tactic or a hack and not the actual underlying psychology of why the thing worked. And so we understand it deeper, it changes everything. Consciously we decide like, I want to go and achieve this goal. I want to lose weight. I want to make money, right? But how many times have you set a conscious goal? If you want to do something and then it all falls apart a day later, a week later, a month later. And the reason why is because even though you may consciously want something, your subconscious is the thing that actually affects if you're going to do something or not. Okay, our subconscious, these are the beliefs and the patterns that are wired deep inside of our psychology, right? There's the things that we've heard our whole life that become part of us. And so even though you set a goal of like, I want to achieve this goal or this dream, if your subconscious does not believe that you can do it, you'll slip back into the old patterns and ruts that keep you from being successful. And that's what most people understand. So when you understand the psychology of advertising, what he's talking about here is like, you have to learn how to appeal to people's emotion. You have to speak through stories because that's the thing that people will actually subconsciously listen to. Okay, I've seen so many people who are great at selling something online, right? And they'll get somebody to buy something, but then they have huge refund rates, right? Or they have really low success rates. And I remember when I first got started, I had very similar results. Like I got good at like convincing people and persuading them to buy something, right? But then it was crazy because then 20% of people would refund it within the next 30 days. I was like, the refund rates are so high. And my success stories were very low. And when I started understanding the psychology behind it, then I would focus on like, how do I tell stories in a way to get people out of these subconscious ruts that are holding them back? And when we could do that, then what happens is 2 things. Number 1, more people actually buy your product, less people refund because after they bought the product, you've broken them out of these subconscious things that are holding them back. So they're more likely to have success, right? So they don't refund and then they become success stories. Like it changes everything when you start going and looking at it at a deeper level. Because you can sell anybody something once, but if you want them to buy from you over and over and over again, it's about rewiring their human psychology, not just convincing them or tricking them into buying something once. All right, so let me show you guys how this whole thing works. I'm gonna start by drawing a picture of your brain. So your brain looks a little something like that. Okay. Now, there's different parts of your brain. And again, this could get really complex, but I want to simplify it for you. Okay. So there's a couple of things you have to understand about the brain. The first is the front part of your brain. This is your prefrontal cortex in the front. This is where you have your conscious conversations with somebody, right? So this is conscious. And this is where most people think that you're speaking to somebody in your advertising, right? But what you have to understand is that the goal of advertising is to bypass the conscious mind and go into the subconscious. The subconscious, if you look at the way the subconscious work, right, it's all about patterns and stories. And so this is your subconscious. Now, I'm going to explain how this works. And if you understand this, it's going to change everything for you, okay? Like, I like to think about tractor in a field, right? So tractor in a field, first time it's driving down the field, it's just kind of, someone's got to drive it down the field, right? But if you go down the same path over and over and over again, it starts building these ruts, and the ruts get deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper, right? And now, like, it gets to the spot where I can jump in the tractor, turn on the key, I can jump out of it, and the tractor's going to follow those ruts and just go exactly where it needs to go, right? Because that pattern is so deep ingrained that it just happens. Okay, so that's what's happening in our brains. So when you're talking to your customer, you have to understand they already have these subconscious beliefs that are happening inside their brains, right? It's there. It's deep, right? They're these deep ruts. And so when you're trying to tell someone like, hey, don't do that anymore, set a goal and come over here. They're like, okay, I'm gonna set a goal. They consciously set a goal, but what happens? They set a goal, they start driving, and all of a sudden the tractor slips back in the ruts. Like, nope, you're like, I don't know how to do that. Like, this is who I am. Like your subconscious ceiling, that's where you're stuck at, right? So if you want to persuade somebody and get them to move and to change their life and to break these patterns, you have to understand that the way that these patterns were created was by repetition, but also they were created through story, right? So what happens is when we have a conscious goal, our subconscious mind finds the story, finds the pattern about that, and it pulls it out really, really quickly. Okay. So what we have to do is we have to understand our customer's subconscious mind. This is how we have to get to that, right? And so for me, when I think about, okay, if I want to get somebody to buy something from me or get somebody to move, I got to figure out what's the subconscious story they already have right now. Okay. And so I have a pattern. I talk about this in the Expert Secrets book if you haven't had a chance to read it. So the first part of the framework is you think about, okay, I call this the chains of false belief. What are the chains of false beliefs that your customer already has for the thing you're trying to sell them, right? So if I come to you and I'm like, hey, you need to build a funnel inside your business, you can be successful. Like you already have some kind of belief about that already, right? So I have to figure out what is the chains of false beliefs. I'm gonna draw a little picture. This is like there's your chain. So it's a chain of false belief that's holding somebody back. So first thing I've identified, what's the chain of false belief you might have, okay? The second question is, okay, now, based on that, what was the experience somebody went through that gave them that false belief? So I'm going to give you a black eye. Okay, I was thinking about a black eye. You got punched. So like some experience happened to you. There's an experience. So what was the experience that gave you that chain of false belief? So if I tell you you can be successful on the internet, you're like, nope, I tried it in the past. I invested a bunch of money in someone's course and I failed. So that was the experience. Therefore, I do not believe you can be successful selling things on the internet, right? That's the false belief you got because of the experience. Okay, so based on that now, you had an experience that gave you a false belief, and now you have a story. And this is your storybook. So you have the story. And the story is this pattern, right? The story is like, if I try to make money online, it won't work for me because I tried in the past and it didn't work. So that's the story, okay? And so this is where your audience is coming to you from, is through this lens, all right? And so this story, no matter what happens, as soon as you introduce the new idea over here, so you introduce this new idea, let's say I'll draw a picture of a light bulb. So here's this new idea you introduce to people over here, right? So this new idea, you introduce it to them, and they're gonna say, that in their subconscious mind is going to find a story about an experience they had in the past, and then this is the belief, this is the pattern that comes from it, right? And so that's what happens over and over and over again. So for you, this is the secret. What you have to do, you have to figure out what is the story that you have that will trump their false belief. What is the better version of the story that you can tell? And if you tell them this story, it's a weird looking picture of a story, you tell them that story, it'll trump their false belief, okay? So what is your story? Okay, so my example of this, and I'm not in active network marketing right now, but about 15 years ago, one of my friends pitched me on one. And I'd been pitched a couple times, and I was like very anti it. And I told my friend, I said, no, I'm not gonna do it because I don't wanna lose I'm not gonna talk to my friend. I'm introverted. I'm not gonna call my mom and dad and like pitch them on joining this company. And he said, no, you don't understand. He's like, there's a new way to do network marketing. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, yeah, instead of you calling your friends and your family, what we do is we put up a website, it's a landing page that tells about the opportunity, and there's a form someone fills out. And then I just drive traffic to this page, and then people fill out the form, and then they're literally asking me, like, give me a call and pitch me on your opportunity. Then you just call the people who raise their hand and ask you to pitch them opportunity. You call those people, and then you sell them the thing. And I was like, wait a minute. So I could actually have the benefit of network marketing without doing the work of talking to people or of calling my friends and my family? And he's like, yes. And so I was like, let's test it out. So I went and I put up a one-page landing page. I drove traffic to it. People opted in. And then on the next page, I didn't want to call them on the phone. So I had a video of me saying, hey, this is the opportunity. Click down below to join me. In 90 days, I became the #1 money earner in that company, and I won a Ferrari. And I showed them a picture of my Ferrari. And what just happened, okay? This story that they've been living by their whole life, all of a sudden they introduced a new paradigm. And all of a sudden, like, wait a minute. Are you saying I could be successful and not talk to my friends and my family? I could only talk to people who actually wanted to be interested. I'm like, yeah, that's literally what happened to me. Now, if my story trumps their story, then guess what happens? All of this disappears. Boom, 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 boom. And now, number one, they're more likely to buy with you. And number two, they're more likely to do it afterwards because they don't have the subconscious false beliefs holding them back, and they're more likely to actually be successful. And so that is what really good advertising does. It's what really good salesmanship does. When we are creating webinars, like if you've ever been to my Selling Online event, this is what we teach people, how to go and rewrite the subconscious beliefs. So when you're making a presentation, you're doing a video, you're doing a Facebook Live, you're speaking at a live event, you're doing a podcast, whatever you're doing, if you learn how to do this, it breaks people's false beliefs, it rewires them, and it gets them to be able to follow you into the things that you're trying to help them to change their lives. And so that is the power of really understanding and mastering the psychology of advertising at every single step in the funnel. The ad, the landing page, the webinar, the podcast, all the pieces. And that's how you rewire someone's subconscious mind and actually help them be successful in their life. All right, now if you want to read my notes on this book and go a lot deeper, click on the link down in the description to get my notes from this book, which would be really cool. And number two, if you want to go deeper on this topic with me specifically, I do have a 3-day event called Selling Online where I spend 3 days teaching this, but then actually we go through and we figure out what are the false beliefs of your customers. We map those things out. What are the experiences they went through? What are the stories they have? And then what stories did you have to trump those? And we figure those things out and we build them into a presentation. And it's really cool. Again, if you go to sellingonline.com, you can register for that, or we'll put a link down below. Either way though, get the notes from this book and hopefully it'll improve your advertising. So not only can you get more people clicking on your stuff and buying your stuff, you'll be able to change those people's lives when they buy your products and your services, because that's all that really matters at the end of the day. Thanks so much. I appreciate you guys. Hope you enjoyed this video, and we'll see you guys on the next one.